The night Nia Adebayo realizes her marriage is over, rain is slamming against her window and her husband still is not home. Desperate and shaking, she sends one final message meant for him. A message admitting she feels invisible. Then her chest drops. She sent it to the wrong number. The reply comes instantly. Calm. Knowing. Like the stranger understands her too well. What Nia does not know is that the wrong number belongs to Han Jae-seong, the most feared man in Busan. And from the moment he reads her message, he starts watching her life from the shadows. Days later, after her husband comes home smelling like another woman, Nia runs into the night and ends up alone by the sea. She texts the stranger that she cannot take it anymore. 20 minutes later, a black car pulls up. Han steps out and says her name before she ever tells him. He offers her safety. She accepts. But when she becomes leverage in a war she never chose, one question remains. Was the wrong number the worst mistake of her life, or the reason she survived? Welcome to Afro-Korean Drama TV. Like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so. Your support is highly appreciated. The rain hammered against the windows of the tiny apartment like it was trying to break through. Nia Adebayo sat on the edge of her bed, phone trembling in her hands, staring at the screen until the words blurred. She had typed and deleted the message 4 times already. Each time, her chest tightened a little more, her breathing became a little shallower. Victor had not come home again. 3 nights in a row now. No calls. No explanations. Just silence that filled the apartment like smoke, suffocating and thick. She pressed her fingers against her temples, trying to push back the headache that had been building since her double shift at the cafe ended 2 hours ago. Her feet still ached from standing all day, her back hurt from lifting heavy trays, and her heart hurt from something she could not quite name. Loneliness, maybe. Or the slow, creeping realization that she had been alone in her marriage for much longer than she wanted to admit. The message sat there on her screen, simple and raw. I miss the person you used to be. I miss the person I used to be with you. I do not know how we got here, but I am tired of pretending everything is fine when I feel like I am disappearing. Her thumb hovered over the send button. She should not send it. She knew that. Victor would not read it with kindness. He would twist her words, make her feel foolish for being vulnerable, for wanting more than the cold, distant shell of a marriage they had now. But something in her needed to try one more time. One last attempt to reach the man she had married 4 years ago, before Busan, before the secrets, before the distance became a wall she could not climb. She pressed send before she could change her mind. The moment the message left her phone, her stomach dropped. Something felt wrong. She pulled up the conversation thread, and her blood went cold. The number was off by 1 digit. She had sent her most vulnerable confession to a complete stranger. Her hands shook as she stared at the screen, waiting for the panic to fully set in. She thought about sending another message, explaining the mistake, apologizing. But what would she even say? Sorry, I meant to send my desperate plea to my husband, not you. Please delete and forget. She set the phone down and buried her face in her hands. Of course. Of course this would happen tonight. On top of everything else, she had just humiliated herself to a random person in Busan. The phone buzzed. Nia's head snapped up. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she reached for it, half expecting a confused response or maybe just silence. What she got instead made her breath catch. You have not disappeared. People only feel that way when they have been made invisible by someone who should be seeing them. That is not your fault. She read it 3 times. Then a 4th. The words were careful, measured, but there was something underneath them. Something that felt like understanding. Like whoever this was had actually listened. Her fingers moved before her brain caught up. I sent that to the wrong number. I am sorry. The response came quickly. Do not apologize. Sometimes the wrong number is the right one. Nia did not know what to say to that. She sat there in the dim light of her bedroom, rain still drumming against the window, and for the first time in months, she did not feel completely alone. She should have stopped there, should have thanked the stranger, and put her phone away. But instead, she typed, Do you ever feel like you are living someone else's life? Every day. 2 words. Simple. Honest. And somehow, they cracked something open inside her chest. They texted back and forth for an hour. Nothing too deep, nothing too personal. Just 2 people trading thoughts in the dark. The stranger did not ask her name, did not push for details, just responded with the kind of attention she had been starving for. When Victor finally stumbled through the door at 2 in the morning, smelling like whiskey and someone else's perfume, Nia pretended to be asleep. She did not have the energy to fight, did not have the heart to confront him. Instead, she lay there in the dark, phone hidden under her pillow, and thought about the stranger on the other end of that wrong number. She did not know his name, did not know his face, but for 1 hour, someone had made her feel like she mattered. And that was more than Victor had done in months. Across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked the glittering lights of Busan, Han Jae-seong sat in his office with a glass of whiskey he had not touched. His phone rested on the mahogany desk in front of him, screen dark now, but the conversation still playing in his mind. He should not have responded. Should have ignored the message the moment he realized it was meant for someone else. But something about the words had stopped him cold. The rawness. The honesty. The kind of vulnerability people did not show in his world. In his line of work, weakness got you killed. Emotions were leverage. Trust was a weapon waiting to be used against you. But that message had not been a weapon. It had been a confession. And for reasons he did not fully understand, he had responded. Han leaned back in his chair, rolling the tension out of his shoulders. It had been a long night. 2 territory disputes to settle. One idiot who thought skimming from collections would go unnoticed, and a politician who needed reminding about the terms of their arrangement. He was tired. Bone tired. The kind of exhaustion that came from years of living in the shadows, making decisions that kept the city running in ways most people would never understand. His phone buzzed. Not the one on his desk. The other one. The secure line only 5 people had access to. He picked it up without looking at the screen. What? We have a situation in Nampodong. Park's crew is pushing into the docks again. Minjun's voice was calm, but edged with urgency. He had been Han's right hand for 15 years. If Minjun said it was a situation, it was serious. Han closed his eyes briefly. Send Choi. Tell him I want it handled quietly. No bodies, no attention. Just make the point clear. Already done. But Park is asking for a meeting. Says he wants to negotiate. Park does not negotiate. He tests boundaries until someone breaks his hand. Han stood, grabbing his jacket from the back of the chair. Set it up for tomorrow night. Neutral ground. I will handle it myself. Understood. The call ended. Han pocketed both phones and looked out the window at the city below. Busan stretched out like a living thing, lights twinkling in the dark, people moving through their lives completely unaware of the structure that kept everything balanced. He had built that structure, maintained it, protected it. But tonight, for the first time in years, he had let himself be distracted by something that had nothing to do with power or territory or control. A wrong number. A stranger's loneliness. A moment of connection that should not have mattered. And yet, he had saved the number. The next morning, Nia woke to Victor's side of the bed empty again. No note. No message. She lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, before forcing herself out of bed. She had the early shift at the cafe today. If she hurried, she could grab a shower and make it on time. The cafe where she worked was small, tucked between a convenience store and a bookshop in a quiet neighborhood near Haeundae Beach. It was not glamorous, but it was hers in a way nothing else in Busan had been. The owner, an elderly Korean woman named Mrs. Kong, had hired Nia 3 years ago when most places would not even let her through the door. Mrs. Kong did not care that Nia's Korean was imperfect or that she was from Ghana. She cared that Nia showed up on time, worked hard, and made customers smile. By noon, the cafe was packed with the usual lunch crowd. Nia moved through the tables with practiced efficiency, taking orders, delivering food, clearing dishes. Her feet ached already, but she pushed through it. She needed this job. Needed the money. Needed the distraction. She was wiping down a table near the window when her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She almost ignored it, but something made her check. "How is your day going?" The stranger. The wrong number. She had not expected him to text again. She glanced around the cafe, making sure no one needed her immediately, before typing a quick response. "Busy. Yours. Complicated. But better now." A small smile tugged at her lips before she could stop it. She pocketed her phone and got back to work, but the smile stayed with her for the rest of her shift. Over the next 2 weeks, the messages became routine. Morning greetings. Random thoughts throughout the day. Late night conversations when sleep would not come. They still had not exchanged names. Had not shared details that would make them real to each other. But somehow, the anonymity made it easier. Safer. Nia found herself looking forward to the messages more than she wanted to admit. This stranger, whoever he was, listened in ways Victor never had. Asked questions that showed he actually cared about the answers. Made her laugh when she needed it most. And then one night, everything changed. It started with another fight. Victor came home drunk, angry about something at work he refused to explain. He accused Nia of not supporting him, of not understanding the pressure he was under. She tried to calm him down, tried to talk through it, but he just kept escalating until his voice shook the walls and his words cut deeper than any physical blow could. When he finally passed out on the couch, Nia grabbed her jacket and left. She did not have a plan, did not have anywhere to go. She just walked, letting the cold night air numb the parts of her that hurt too much to feel. She ended up at Gwangali Beach, staring out at the dark water and the lit bridge stretching across it. The beach was empty this late. Just her and the sound of waves and the weight of 4 years of unhappiness pressing down on her shoulders. Her phone was in her hand before she realized it. She typed without thinking. "I do not know how much more of this I can take." The response came within seconds. "Where are you?" She should not have answered. Should not have told a stranger her location. But she was so tired of holding everything together alone. Gwangali Beach. Near the bridge. "Stay there. Please." 20 minutes later, a black Mercedes pulled up along the road behind her. Nia tensed, suddenly aware of how isolated she was, how stupid this might have been. But then a man stepped out, tall and dressed in dark clothes, and something about the way he moved made her breath catch. He walked toward her slowly, like he was approaching a frightened animal. When he was a few feet away, he stopped. "You are the wrong number." His voice was deep, careful, with just a hint of an accent that marked him as Busan-born. Nia nodded, not trusting her voice. "You look like you were about to do something permanent." He did not phrase it as a question. "I was not. I was just thinking." Dangerous thing to do alone at night near water. He moved a little closer, and in the dim light from the street lamps, she could finally see his face. Sharp features. Dark eyes that seemed to see too much. A scar along his jawline that spoke of a life she probably did not want to know about. He was handsome in a way that felt almost dangerous. "Are you here to lecture me?" She tried to sound strong, but her voice shook. "No. I am here because I know what it looks like when someone is barely holding on. And I did not want you to let go." Something in his tone broke through the walls she had been building all night. Tears she had been holding back spilled over, and she hated herself for it. Hated that she was crying in front of a stranger. Hated that she had let herself get to this point. He did not move closer. Did not try to touch her. Just stood there like a steady presence in the middle of her storm. "What is your name?" she finally asked, wiping at her tears. He hesitated. She could see the calculation in his eyes, the moment he decided whether to give her truth or a lie. "Han Jae-seong." "Nia Adebayo." "Nia." He said it carefully, like he was testing how it felt. "Let me drive you home." "I do not want to go home." "Then I will drive you somewhere else. A hotel. A friend's place. Anywhere but here." She looked at him, really looked at him, and tried to figure out why a stranger would care this much. "Why are you doing this?" His expression shifted, something almost vulnerable flickering across his face before he locked it down. Because for 2 weeks, your messages have been the only honest thing in my life. And I am not ready to lose that. The admission hung between them like a confession. Nia knew she should be scared, should be questioning everything about this situation. But instead, all she felt was relief. Relief that someone cared. Relief that she was not alone. Okay, she whispered. Take me somewhere else. If you are enjoying this story, like and subscribe because what happens next will change everything for both of them. Han drove her to a small, clean hotel near Siamayan. He paid for the room without asking questions, handed her the key, and told her to rest. He did not ask to come up, did not push for more than she was ready to give. Just made sure she was safe and left his number. If you need anything, call. Anytime. Nia watched him walk away, and for the first time in years, she felt like maybe she was not as invisible as she thought. The next morning, she woke up in the hotel room with a pounding headache and a dozen missed calls from Victor. She ignored them all and texted Han instead. Thank you for last night. His response was immediate. Are you okay? I do not know, but I am better than I was. That is a start. They met for coffee 3 days later. A small place in Ghanaian where tourists rarely went. Han was already there when she arrived, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall and a clear view of the entrance. She noticed that immediately. Noticed how his eyes scanned the room before settling on her. Noticed the way he relaxed slightly when he saw she had come alone. You look better, he said as she slid into the seat across from him. I had time to think. She wrapped her hands around the coffee cup he had ordered for her. He had remembered she liked it with extra cream. That small detail made her chest feel tight. About a lot of things. And I think I have been lying to myself for a long time. About my marriage. About being happy. About what I deserve. Han studied her with those dark, unreadable eyes. What do you deserve? I do not know yet, but I know it is not what I have now. He nodded slowly, like he understood more than she was saying. If you need help leaving, I can arrange it. A place to stay. Legal support. Whatever you need. Nia frowned. Why would you do that? You do not even know me. I know enough. His voice was firm. I know you are drowning in a situation you did not create. I know you work 2 jobs trying to make ends meet while your husband does God knows what with his time. I know you have not smiled, really smiled in months, and I know that you deserve better than to feel invisible in your own life. The words hit her like a physical thing. She blinked back tears and looked down at her coffee. How do you know all that? Because you have told me. Maybe not in exact words, but I listen. He paused, and when she looked up, his expression had softened slightly. And because I had someone check your situation. Make sure you were safe. Her stomach dropped. You had someone check on me? Like, investigate me? I had someone make sure your husband was not a threat. That you were not in immediate danger. I did not dig into your past or violate your privacy. I just needed to know you were okay. She should have been angry, should have felt violated. But instead, part of her felt relieved. Someone had cared enough to make sure she was protected. Victor certainly never had. What did you find out? She asked quietly. Han's jaw tightened. That your husband is having an affair. That he has been using money from your shared account for hotels and gifts. That he has debt you probably do not know about. Nia's hands shook. She had suspected the affair. Deep down she had known. But hearing it confirmed, hearing the details, made it real in a way that hurt even though she thought she had been prepared. I am sorry, Han said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. I know this is not easy to hear. No, I needed to hear it. She took a shaky breath. I needed the truth instead of the lies I have been telling myself. They sat in silence for a while, the cafe bustling around them while their corner booth felt like its own private world. Finally, Nia looked up at him. Who are you, Han Jae-seong? Really? His expression shuddered immediately, that vulnerable moment from seconds ago disappearing behind a mask of careful control. Someone who tries to help when he can. That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give right now. He leaned back, creating more distance between them even though he had not physically moved. What I do, the life I live, it is complicated. And it is not something I want to pull you into. But you want to help me. Yes. Why? He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw something flicker in his eyes. Something that looked almost like longing. Because when I read your first message, the one you sent by mistake, it reminded me that there is still goodness in the world. Still people who feel things deeply, who hurt and hope and try. And I have spent so long surrounded by people who only know how to take and destroy that I forgot what that looked like. You reminded me. Nia's breath caught. The honesty in his words felt like a gift. A dangerous, complicated gift, but a gift nonetheless. I should probably stay away from you, she said softly. You probably should, but I do not want to. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Neither do I. Over the next 3 weeks, they fell into a pattern. Coffee twice a week. Long text conversations every night. Han never pushed for more. Never asked her to leave Victor before she was ready. He just existed in her life like a steady presence, offering support without demanding anything in return. And then the groceries started appearing. Nia came home from work one day to find boxes of food outside her apartment door. Fresh vegetables, rice, meat, spices she loved but could rarely afford. No note. No explanation. But she knew. She texted Han immediately. You cannot keep doing this. Doing what? Sending me things. Paying for things. I do not need charity. It is not charity. It is making sure you eat properly. There is a difference. Han. Nia. Let me do this. Please. She wanted to argue. Wanted to maintain her independence. But the truth was, having food in her fridge meant she did not have to choose between eating and paying bills. And as much as her pride hated to admit it, she needed the help. Thank you, she texted back. But this has to stop eventually. When you are ready, it will. 2 weeks later, her rent was paid. She found out when her landlord mentioned it casually, thanking her for being early this month. Nia had not paid it, had been dreading the conversation about needing a few more days. But somehow it was handled. She called Han this time, too angry to text. This is too much, she said the moment he answered. Good evening to you too. His voice had that hint of amusement that always made her want to smile even when she was frustrated. I am serious. You paid my rent. That is not just helping, that is taking over my life. I paid it because you were 3 weeks behind, and I did not want you to worry about it on top of everything else you were dealing with. Your landlord mentioned you had been struggling. You talked to my landlord? Briefly. Nia closed her eyes, trying to find calm. You cannot just fix my problems without asking me. Why not? Because it makes me feel like I owe you something. The line went quiet for a moment. When Han spoke again, his voice was softer, more serious. You do not owe me anything. Not a single thing. I am doing this because I want to, not because I expect something in return. But why? People do not just do these things without wanting something. I do. He paused. And maybe that makes me foolish or too involved in a situation I should be staying out of. But I do not care. I want to help you, Nia. That is all this is. Her anger deflated, replaced by something she did not know how to name. I do not understand you. You do not have to. Just let me help. She hung up without saying goodbye, but later that night, she texted him a simple thank you. His response was immediate. Always. The turning point came on a Tuesday night in July. Victor came home from one of his unexplained absences and told Nia he wanted a divorce. Just like that. No explanation. No discussion. Just a cold statement delivered like he was commenting on the weather. At first, she could not process it. Then the relief came, swift and overwhelming. He was giving her a way out. She would not have to be the one to break their marriage. Would not have to carry the guilt of giving up. Okay, she said quietly. Victor blinked, clearly expecting more of a fight. Okay? That is all you have to say. What do you want me to say? That I will beg you to stay? That I will fight for a marriage you checked out of years ago? She stood straighter, finding strength she did not know she still had. I want the divorce too, Victor. I have for a while now. His face darkened. So there is someone else. I knew it. There is no one else. It was not quite a lie, but not quite the truth either. Han was not her affair. He was something else entirely. Something she still did not have words for. I do not believe you. You have been different lately. Distant. You are hiding something. I am not the one who has been staying out all night. I am not the one with perfume on my collar and lies in my pockets. Do not project your guilt onto me, Victor. They argued for another hour. Victor demanded things he had no right to, made threats about taking everything in the divorce, accused her of things that were not true. When he finally stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to shake the walls, Nia sank onto the couch and let herself cry. Not because she was sad, but because she was free. Finally, terrifyingly free. She called Han without thinking. He answered on the first ring. Nia? Victor wants a divorce. Her voice shook, but held steady. He told me tonight. Silence. Then, carefully, how do you feel about that? Relieved. Scared. I do not know what comes next, but I know I cannot stay here. I cannot keep living in this apartment with his things and his anger and his ghost. Then do not. What? Do not stay there. Pack what you need and leave. Tonight. And go where? Anywhere. A hotel. I will handle it. Nia laughed, but there was no humor in it. You cannot just keep solving my problems, Han. Watch me. His voice was firm, brooking no argument. Pack your essentials. I will have a car there in 20 minutes. You can figure out the rest later, but right now, you need to get out of that apartment. She wanted to argue, wanted to prove she could handle this on her own. But the truth was, she was exhausted. Exhausted from years of fighting alone. And for once, having someone in her corner felt less like weakness and more like grace. Okay, she whispered. Okay. True to his word, a car arrived exactly 20 minutes later. The driver was professional, quiet, and helped her load the 2 suitcases she had managed to pack. As the car pulled away from the apartment building, Nia looked back one last time at the place that had been her prison for 3 years. She did not feel sad. She felt like she could breathe. The car did not take her to a hotel. Instead, it climbed up into the hills above Busan, winding through narrow roads until it stopped in front of a modern building with floor-to-ceiling windows and security that looked military-grade. The driver opened her door. Mr. Han is waiting for you on the top floor. Nia's stomach fluttered with nerves as she rode the elevator up. The doors opened directly into a penthouse that took her breath away. Huge windows overlooked the entire city, lights glittering like stars against the dark. The space was minimalist, clean, expensive in a way that made her old apartment look like a cardboard box. Han stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, watching the city. He turned when he heard her. Welcome, he said simply. This is your home. It was not a question. It is. And for now, it is yours too. Nia set her suitcases down, suddenly very aware of how out of place she must look in this space. I cannot stay here. Why not? Because this is too much. Because I barely know you. Because living with you would be crossing about 100 lines we should not cross. Han walked toward her slowly, stopping a few feet away. You are right. This is crossing lines. But you need a safe place to figure out what comes next, and I have space. I have security. And I have a guest room that is yours for as long as you need it. No strings. No expectations. Just space to breathe. She looked up at him, searching his face for ulterior motives. But all she saw was sincerity. And something else. Something that looked like worry. Why are you doing all this? She asked for what felt like the 100th time. Because everyone deserves to have someone in their corner. And right now, I want to be in yours. Nia felt tears prick her eyes again. She was so tired of crying, but his words kept unraveling parts of her she had kept locked away for too long. I do not know how to repay you for all this. Then do not try. Just heal. That is enough. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Han gave her a small smile and gestured down a hallway. Guest room is the second door on the left. Private bathroom. Everything you need should be there, but if something is missing, let me know. I have some work to finish tonight, so I will be in my office. Make yourself at home. He started to walk away, but she called out to him. Han. He turned back. Thank you. For everything. His expression softened. Get some rest, Nia. Tomorrow is a new day. Living with Han was nothing like she expected. He was gone most of the time, disappearing early in the morning and returning late at night. When he was home, he was quiet, respectful of her space, never pushing into areas she was not ready to share. They fell into an easy routine. Coffee together in the mornings when he was around. Brief conversations about safe topics. Careful distance maintained even as something between them grew stronger. But late at night, when she could not sleep, she would find him in his office or on the terrace, and they would talk. Really talk. About everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in Busan, about losing his parents young, about building something from nothing in a world that did not play fair. She told him about Ghana, about her family, about the dreams she had buried under years of trying to survive. He never told her exactly what he did, but she was not naive. She saw the security, heard the phone calls he took in hushed tones, noticed the way people deferred to him when they went out. She knew he was involved in things that existed in the gray spaces of legality. And somehow, it did not scare her the way it should have. One night, 2 weeks after moving in, Nia could not sleep. She wandered out to the living room and found Han sitting on the couch, a book in his hands, a glass of amber liquid on the table beside him. Cannot sleep? He asked without looking up. Too much on my mind. She sat down on the other end of the couch, tucking her feet under her. You? Same. He closed the book and set it aside. How is the divorce process going? Victor had been making it difficult, as expected. Demanding things, drawing out every detail, making threats. But Han had connected her with a lawyer who handled everything with swift efficiency. It was another debt she did not know how to repay. Complicated, she admitted. Victor is fighting me on everything. I think he is doing it to punish me. Let him try. Han's voice went cold in a way that made her shiver. Your lawyer will handle it. And if Victor becomes a problem in any other way, he will be dealt with. Dealt with how? Han looked at her then, and for just a moment, she saw the man he really was. The one who existed beneath the careful courtesy and controlled responses. In ways that ensure he never bothers you again. She should have been frightened. Should have asked more questions. But instead, she just nodded. Okay. What? They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights twinkling through the windows. Then Nia asked the question that had been building in her chest for days. Why have you never asked for more? Han turned to look at her fully. More? You know what I mean. I am living in your home. You have done so much for me. Most men would have expected something in return by now. I am not most men. I am starting to realize that. His eyes searched her face. Would you want me to ask for more? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Nia's heart hammered in her chest. She did not know how to answer that. Did not know if she was ready for the truth. I do not know, she finally said. But I think about it sometimes. About what this is between us. About where it is going. And what do you think? I think you are dangerous for me. I think I should want distance instead of wanting to be closer. I think I am terrified of making another mistake when I am barely out of my last one. Han nodded slowly. Those are all very rational thoughts. But rational has nothing to do with what I feel when you are in the same room as me. He said it quietly, like a confession. I have spent my entire life building walls, making sure no one gets close enough to matter. And then you sent a message to the wrong number, and suddenly those walls felt like a prison. Nia's breath caught. Han, I am not asking you for anything you are not ready to give. I just want you to know that when you figure out what you want, if part of that includes me, I am here. She did not think, did not plan. She just moved, closing the distance between them on the couch until they were side by side. Close enough that she could feel his warmth. Close enough to see the way his jaw tightened as he fought for control. What if I am scared? She whispered. Then I wait until you are not. What if I am never not scared? Then I will be scared with you. Nia reached out and took his hand. It was the first time they had really touched beyond accidental brushes in the kitchen or passing in hallways. His hand was warm, strong, and it held hers like it was something precious. They sat like that until dawn started painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, neither of them saying anything, both of them understanding that something fundamental had shifted between them. The next morning, everything felt different. Charged. Like the air before a storm. Nia moved through the penthouse with new awareness, hyper-conscious of every moment Han was nearby. The brush of his hand as he passed her coffee. The way his eyes lingered when he thought she was not looking. The careful distance he maintained even as something between them pulled tighter and tighter. She was making dinner one evening, when he came home early. She heard the door, heard his footsteps, and then felt him enter the kitchen. "You are cooking." He sounded surprised. "I am capable of feeding myself." She kept her tone light, teasing. "I thought I would feed you too. You barely eat." "I eat. You consume coffee and whatever random food you can grab between meetings. That is not eating. That is surviving." He leaned against the counter, watching her work. "You have been paying attention. Someone has to." She finished plating the food and carried both plates to the small dining table near the windows. They ate in comfortable silence, but the tension was there, simmering under the surface. When they were done, Han stood to clear the dishes, but Nia stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Let me. You cooked." They moved around the kitchen together, a careful dance of proximity and restraint. Nia was washing dishes when she felt him come up behind her, close enough that she could feel his presence like heat against her back. "You did not have to do this," he said quietly. "I wanted to." She rinsed the last plate and set it in the drying rack. "Besides, you have done so much for me. Dinner is the least I can offer." "I told you I do not want payment. I know. But maybe I want to give anyway." She turned to face him, and suddenly they were so close she could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Could see the way his breath hitched slightly when their eyes met. The kitchen felt too small and too large all at once. "Nia." Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a warning all at once. "Yes, I am trying very hard to be good right now." Her heart hammered in her chest. "What if I do not want you to be good?" His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing against her cheekbones with heartbreaking gentleness. "Then you need to tell me what you want, because I will not take what you are not ready to give." She should have stepped back, should have put distance between them, but instead, she leaned into his touch and said the most honest thing she had said in weeks. "I want to stop being scared. Of me. Of this. Of feeling something real when I just escaped something broken. Of wanting you when I should be learning how to be alone." Han's expression softened. "You do not have to choose right now. We have time." But then she rose up on her toes and kissed him, soft and brief and terrifying. The moment her lips touched his, the world stopped spinning. She pulled back immediately, eyes wide, hand flying to her mouth. "I am sorry. I should not have done that. That was a mistake." But Han's eyes had darkened, and when he spoke, his voice was rough. "That was not a mistake. I am still technically married. I am living in your home. I am a mess. This is too complicated. I do not care." He pulled her back, one hand cupping the back of her head. "I do not care about complicated. I care about this. About you." This time when their lips met, there was no hesitation. The kiss was slow, deliberate, consuming. Years of loneliness and wanting poured into that single connection. Han kissed her like she was air, and he had been drowning. Nia kissed him back like she was finally coming home after being lost for too long. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Han pressed his forehead to hers. "Tell me to stop and I will," he whispered. But Nia did not want him to stop. She wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted to feel something other than numb, for the first time in years. "Do not stop," she said. "Please do not stop." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Nia let herself fall into it. Let herself feel without overthinking. Let herself want without guilt. They ended up on the couch, tangled together, learning the geography of each other through tentative touches and whispered words. Han's hands were careful, reverent, treating her like something precious. Every kiss felt like a promise. Every touch felt like devotion. But when things started moving toward more, Nia pulled back. Wait. Han stilled immediately. Too much. I just need a minute. She sat up, adjusting her clothes, trying to catch her breath. This is moving fast. We can stop. He said it easily, without resentment. This does not have to go further than you want it to. Nia looked at him, this complicated, dangerous man who had shown her nothing but patience and care. I want this. I want you. But I am scared of what it means. It means you are choosing to feel something good. That is all it has to mean right now. She nodded, but her mind was already spiraling. The guilt was creeping in. She was still married, even if only on paper. She was living in his home, accepting his help, and now they had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. I need to think, she said quietly. Han stood, putting physical distance between them, even though she could see it cost him. Take all the time you need. Nothing changes unless you want it to. He left her there in the living room, and Nia sat in the dark, fingers pressed to her lips, trying to understand what she had just done. Over the next week, they were careful with each other. Polite. Distant. Like they were both trying to pretend that kiss had not happened. But Nia could not stop thinking about it. Could not stop replaying the way he had touched her, the way he had looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Her divorce moved forward. Victor signed the papers, finally accepting it was over, probably because his lawyer made him realize he had no real leverage. The relief Nia felt was immediate and overwhelming. She was free. Legally, officially free. She should have moved out then. Should have found her own place and given herself space to figure out who she was outside of marriage and dependency. But she did not want to leave. Did not want to put distance between herself and Han. The night her divorce was finalized, Han took her to dinner. A small, expensive restaurant overlooking the ocean. They sat by the windows and watched the sun set while they ate. How does it feel? He asked. Like closing a book I should have finished years ago. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. I wasted so much time trying to fix something that was already broken. You did not waste anything. You tried. That matters. Does it? Yes. You fought for your marriage until you could not fight anymore. That takes courage, not stupidity. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, but Nia's mind was racing. She was divorced now. The guilt that had been holding her back was gone. So what was stopping her? Fear, she realized. Just fear. When they got back to the penthouse, she stopped Han before he could disappear into his office like he had been doing all week. Can we talk? He turned, something guarded in his expression. Of course. They sat in the living room, the same couch where they had kissed a week ago. Nia gathered her courage and said what she had been thinking all day. I want to stop pretending we did not kiss. I want to stop pretending I do not want it to happen again. Han's eyes darkened. Nia, I am divorced now. I am free. And I have spent a week trying to convince myself that this thing between us is too complicated, too fast, too dangerous. But I am tired of being afraid. I am tired of denying what I want because it does not fit into some safe, logical box. What do you want? You. She said it plainly. No room for misunderstanding. I want you. I want this. Whatever this is. Han crossed the space between them in 3 strides. He pulled her to her feet and kissed her like he had been starving for it. And maybe he had been. Maybe they both had been. You are sure about this? He asked between kisses. More sure than I have been about anything in years. That night, they did not stop. They learned each other in the darkness, whispered promises against skin, found comfort in connection. Nia felt alive in ways she had forgotten were possible. Han was careful with her, attentive, making sure she felt safe even as they crossed into new territory. Afterward, lying tangled in his bed with the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling, Nia felt peace. Real peace. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of something good. Are you okay? Han asked, his voice rumbling in his chest where her head rested. Better than okay. His arms tightened around her. Good. Because I am not letting you go now. Possessive much? She was teasing, but there was truth in it. When it comes to you, yes. He said it without shame. I have never wanted to keep something the way I want to keep you. Nia should have been frightened by the intensity in his voice. But instead, she felt cherished. I am not a thing to be kept. No. You are a person to be protected, respected, and loved. And I plan to do all three. Loved. He tilted her chin up, so their eyes met. Yes. I know it is too soon. I know we have only known each other a few months. But I am in love with you, Nia Adebayo. Have been since that first message landed on my phone. Tears filled her eyes. You cannot mean that. I never say things I do not mean. I do not know if I am there yet, she admitted. Everything is still so new and raw, and I am scared of moving too fast. Then do not say it back. Just let me love you until you are ready. Nia kissed him, soft and sweet, and let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this kind of happiness. The next few weeks were the best of her life. She and Han existed in a bubble of stolen moments and careful happiness. He taught her to cook Korean food. She taught him Ghanaian dishes that reminded her of home. They explored the city together, finding hidden spots where they could exist without the weight of his reputation or her past. But the bubble could not last forever. It burst on a Thursday afternoon when Nia came home from running errands to find Han in his office with 3 men she did not recognize. The energy in the room was tense, dangerous. Han's expression was colder than she had ever seen it. He glanced up when she entered, and something flickered in his eyes. Warning. Nia. Go to the bedroom. Now. She wanted to argue, wanted to ask questions, but the tone in his voice made her obey. She went to the bedroom and closed the door, but she could still hear raised voices. Threats in Korean she could not quite make out. 20 minutes later, the apartment went quiet. Then Han was opening the bedroom door, looking exhausted. What was that about? She asked. Business. He said it flatly, closing the door behind him. Han, do not shut me out. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. I am trying to protect you. From what? From the reality of what I do. From the danger that comes with being in my world. Nia stood, walking over to him. You have protected me since the beginning. You do not get to push me away now because things are getting complicated. This is not complicated. This is dangerous. There are people who would hurt you to get to me, who would use you as leverage. And I will not let that happen. So what? You're going to push me away to keep me safe. If I have to. Well, too bad. She was angry now, really angry. You do not get to make that choice for me. You do not get to decide what risks I am willing to take. They argued for an hour. Han tried to maintain distance, tried to convince her that leaving would be safer. Nia refused to back down, refused to let him push her away out of misguided protection. Finally, exhausted, they reached a fragile peace. I need you to understand something, Han said quietly. The people I deal with do not play by normal rules. They see weakness and they exploit it. If they think you matter to me, and they do, you become a target. Then teach me how to be safe. Assign security. Do whatever you need to do. But do not ask me to leave you. Han pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly, she could barely breathe. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. The thought of you getting hurt because of me makes me want to burn the entire city down. Then do not let them hurt me. Fight for us the way you fight for everything else. He pulled back to look at her, searching her face. You really want this? Knowing what it means. I want you. Whatever comes with that, we will face together. From that day forward, things changed. Security became tighter. Nia could not go anywhere without guards following at a discreet distance. Han taught her self-defense basics, made sure she knew emergency protocols. He introduced her to Minjun, his second-in-command, who became her shadow whenever Han could not be with her. But Victor was not done causing problems. He started showing up at places Nia frequented. Her cafe, the grocery store. Always watching. Always lurking. When she told Han, his expression went cold in a way that scared her. I will handle this. What does that mean? It means Victor will not be a problem anymore. Han, you cannot just hurt him. Watch me. Whatever Han did, it worked. Victor stopped showing up. Stopped calling. Vanished from her life. Completely. Nia did not ask for details. Some things she realized she did not want to know. But then came the investigator. Detective Park was young, determined, and convinced that Han was responsible for a dozen crimes she probably could not prove. She approached Nia outside the cafe one day, flashing her badge and asking for a moment of her time. I know who you live with, Detective Park said without preamble. I know what he does, and I know you are in danger. I am not in danger. Yes, you are. Han Jae-seong is a criminal. He runs networks of illegal activity throughout Busan. Money movements that fund violence, networks that destroy lives. And you are sleeping in his bed like none of that matters. Nia's hands shook, but she kept her voice steady. What I do is not your concern. It is when you become a witness. When you see things that could help put him away. I have not seen anything. Detective Park slid a folder across the table. Then look. See what kind of man you are really with. Nia did not want to look. Did not want to see. But curiosity and fear won out. She opened the folder and saw photos. Documents. Details of operations Han had been involved in. Some of it looked bad. Really bad. Violence. Threats. Things that made her stomach turn. But she had already known. Deep down, she had always known. Han had never pretended to be a saint. This does not change anything, she said quietly, closing the folder. He is using you. Do not you see that? No. He is protecting me. There is a difference. Detective Park looked at her with something like pity. When this ends badly, and it will, do not say no one warned you. Nia went home shaken but resolute. When Han came home that night, she confronted him. A detective approached me today. She had a file on you. Han's expression went neutral. What did it say? Enough. Nia crossed her arms. Are the things in there true? Some of them. Not all. Which ones? He met her eyes without flinching. I will not lie to you. I have done things I am not proud of. Hurt people who probably deserved it, but maybe did not deserve the extent of what I did. I have lived in gray spaces and made decisions based on survival, not morality. But I have never hurt anyone who is innocent. I have never caused suffering for the sake of it. And everything I have built, I built to create order in a world that had none. Is that supposed to make it okay? No. But it is the truth. He stepped closer. If you want to leave, I will not stop you. If this is too much, if I am too much, I understand. But I will not apologize for who I am or what I have had to do to survive. Nia looked at him, really looked at him. This complicated, dangerous, protective man who had shown her more care in a few months than Victor had in 4 years. This man who had saved her from the worst version of herself and asked for nothing in return. I am not leaving, she said firmly. Nia, I am not naive. I know what you are. I know what you do. And I am choosing you anyway. So stop waiting for me to run. Stop expecting me to see you as a monster. I see you, Han. All of you. And I am still here. Something in his expression broke. He pulled her into his arms and held her like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. I do not deserve you. You let me decide what you deserve. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the face of a world that wanted to pull them apart. If you have made it this far, comment and subscribe because the danger is just beginning, and what happens next will test everything they have built. The danger came 3 weeks later. Nia was at the cafe, working her usual shift. The security Han had assigned was outside, as always. Everything seemed normal. Until it was not. She was refilling the coffee station when the front door opened and 4 men walked in. Something about the way they moved made her skin prickle. They scanned the room with predatory focus before their eyes landed on her. She knew. Before they even moved, she knew. One of them approached the counter. Nia Adebayo? Who is asking? Someone who wants to have a conversation with you. Come quietly, and no one gets hurt. Her mind raced. The security outside would notice if she did not come out in time. But these men did not look like they cared about collateral damage. The cafe had 12 customers inside. Mrs. Kong was in the back. Okay, she said quietly. Let me get my things. No tricks. She went to the back room where her purse was and quickly sent a single text to Han. Help. Taken. Then she dropped her phone behind a stack of boxes where it would not be immediately found. When she came back out, the men escorted her through the cafe and into a black van waiting outside. Her security guard was on the ground, unconscious but breathing. They had been that fast. The drive was short. They took her to a warehouse in the industrial district, bound her to a chair in an empty room, and left her alone. Fear clawed at her throat, but she forced herself to breathe. To think. Han would come. She had to believe that. An hour later, a man walked in. Older, scarred, with eyes that held no warmth. Nia Adebayo, he said, like he was tasting her name. The woman who broke through Han Jae-seong's walls. I have to admit, I did not think anyone could do that. What do you want?
Simple.
I want Han to know that he is not untouchable, that the empire he built can crumble. And you, my dear, are the easiest way to make that point. He will come for me. I am counting on it. The man smiled, cold and calculating. When he does, I will be ready. And this time, he will not walk away. They left her alone again. Hours passed. Nia's wrists hurt from the restraints. Her mind spun with fear and anger. But underneath it all was certainty. Han would come. And when he did, there would be hell to pay. She was right. The warehouse exploded into chaos near midnight.
Gunfire.
Shouting. The sound of doors being kicked in. Then silence. So sudden and complete it was more terrifying than the noise had been. The door to her room opened and Han walked in, covered in blood that she desperately hoped was not his. His eyes scanned her frantically, cataloging every injury, every mark on her skin. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, barely controlled.
No.
Just scared. He crossed the room in 3 strides and cut through her restraints with a knife that appeared from nowhere. The moment she was free, he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I am sorry, he whispered against her hair. I am so sorry. I should have protected you better. You came for me. That is all that matters. Minjun appeared in the doorway. We need to move. Police will be here soon. Han nodded, then lifted Nia into his arms like she weighed nothing. Hold on to me. She wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face against his shoulder as he carried her out. The warehouse was chaos. Bodies on the ground. Men in Han's employ standing guard. And in the center of it all, the man who had taken her, on his knees with a gun to his head. Han stopped in front of him, still holding Nia. Look at her. The man looked up, fear finally showing through his bravado. You touched what is mine. Threatened what I would burn the world to protect. Do you understand what that means? The man nodded frantically. It means you cease to exist. Not today. Not in a way that draws attention. But you will disappear from this city, from this country, from any place I have influence. And if I ever hear your name again, if you ever even think about coming near her, I will make you wish I had killed you tonight. He gestured to Minjun, who hauled the man away. Then Han carried Nia out to his car and drove her home in silence. Back at the penthouse, he set her down gently on the bathroom counter and began checking her over with careful hands. His touch was tender despite the violence still humming through his body. I thought I lost you, he said quietly. When Minjun called and said you had been taken, something inside me broke. All I could think about was getting to you. Everything else, every rule I have lived by, every line I swore not to cross, it all meant nothing compared to getting you back. Nia reached up and cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. But you did get me back. I am here. I am safe. Because of you. You should not have to be in danger at all because of me. Stop. Stop blaming yourself. They made a choice to come after me. You made a choice to save me. Those are not the same thing. He leaned his forehead against hers, eyes closed, just breathing her in. I love you. God, I love you so much it terrifies me. Then stop being terrified and just love me. They showered together, washing away the blood and fear. Han was gentle, reverent, treating her like something precious. When they finally made it to bed, he held her close, hands roaming over her like he was reassuring himself she was really there. Marry me, he said into the darkness. Nia's breath caught. What? Marry me. Not because it is logical or because we have been together long enough, but because I cannot imagine a single day of my life without you in it. Because you are my peace in a world of chaos. Because I want everyone to know you are mine and I am yours. Tears filled her eyes. You are serious. I have never been more serious about anything. We have only been together a few months. People will say it is too fast. I do not care what people say. Do you want this? Do you want me? Yes. The word came out like a breath. Yes, I want this. I want you. I want to build a life with you even though it is terrifying and complicated and probably insane. Han kissed her then, deep and claiming, and Nia let herself fall completely. Let herself believe in a future she had not dared to imagine. They married 3 weeks later in a small, private ceremony. Just them, Minjun as witness, and an officiant who asked no questions. Nia wore a simple white dress that Han had bought for her. He wore a suit that made him look devastating. When he slid the ring onto her finger, his hands shook. I promise to protect you, he said, voice low and fierce. To love you. To build a life with you that is more than what we came from.
You're my family now.
My home. And I will spend every day proving that you made the right choice trusting me. Nia smiled through tears. I promise to stand beside you. To see you for who you really are, not who the world thinks you are. To love you even when it is scary. Especially when it is scary. You saved me, Han. In every way a person can be saved. And I choose you. Every day, I choose you. Their kiss as husband and wife felt like a beginning and an ending all at once. The end of their old lives. The beginning of something new. The danger did not disappear overnight. But Han worked tirelessly to reshape his world. He shifted his focus, moved away from the violent aspects of his business, delegated power to people he trusted. He made enemies into allies through negotiation instead of force. It was slow work, dangerous work, but he did it for her.
For them.
For the future they wanted to build. Nia threw herself into creating something of her own. With Han's support, she opened a small restaurant that served both Korean and Ghanaian food. It became a safe haven for immigrants, a place where cultures blended and people felt welcome. She hired staff who needed second chances, who understood what it meant to start over in a foreign place. 3 months after their wedding, Nia woke up nauseous. At first, she thought it was food poisoning. But when the nausea persisted for a week, she took a test. Positive. She stared at the little lines, heart hammering, not sure if she was terrified or thrilled. She and Han had not planned this, had not even discussed children. Everything had happened so fast. When Han came home that night, she was sitting on the couch, test in hand. What is wrong? He asked immediately, reading her tension. She held up the test without saying anything. Han froze. His eyes went from the test to her face and back again. You are pregnant? Yes. And you are okay? I do not know. Are you okay? He crossed to her in 3 strides, dropping to his knees in front of the couch. His hands came up to rest on her still flat stomach with heartbreaking gentleness. I am more than okay. I am terrified and thrilled and already so in love with this little life we made. Nia laughed, relief flooding through her. You want this? I want everything with you. The complicated, the scary, the beautiful. All of it. Pregnancy changed Han in ways Nia had not expected. He became even more protective, which she had not thought possible. He rearranged his entire schedule to be home more. Started going to every doctor appointment. Read parenting books like he was studying for an exam. And slowly, carefully, he began distancing himself even further from the dangerous aspects of his life. "I want our child to grow up knowing their father," he told her one night, hands resting on her growing belly. "Not visiting him in prison, or worse. I want to be present.
Clean.
Whatever it takes." "You are already a good father," Nia said softly. "This baby is so lucky to have you." Their daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday in November. Han was there for every moment of labor, holding Nia's hand, whispering encouragement, looking at her like she was performing miracles. When their daughter finally arrived, tiny and perfect and screaming, he cried. "She is ours," he said, voice breaking. "She is really ours."
They named her Amara, Jia.
Amara from Nia's heritage, meaning grace. Jia from Han's, meaning wisdom. She had Nia's eyes and Han's dark hair. She was perfect. Fatherhood transformed Han completely. The man who had ruled Busan's underworld with an iron fist became someone who sang lullabies at 3 in the morning and changed diapers without complaint. He built a nursery with his own hands. Baby-proofed the entire penthouse. Started coming home early just to hold his daughter. "I never knew I could feel like this," he admitted one night, Amara asleep on his chest. "Like my heart exists outside my body." Nia watched them together and felt her own heart expand. This was her family, her life, born from a wrong number and a leap of faith. 2 years later, their son was born, Kofi Sang-hoon. He had Han's serious expression and Nia's laugh. Between 2 children and the restaurant, their lives became beautifully chaotic. Han stepped back from his old world almost entirely, handing control to people he trusted with ironclad agreements about how things would be run. He became a legitimate businessman, investing in real estate and technology. Some people in his old world called him soft. He did not care. He had everything that mattered. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Han took Nia back to Gwangali Beach, where they had first met face to face. They walked along the sand while his security team kept discreet distance, watching their children play near the water. "Do you ever regret it?" Nia asked. "Giving up that life? That power?" Han pulled her closer, wrapping an arm around her waist. "I gave up violence. I gave up danger. I did not give up power. I redirected it. Into this. Into us. Into building something that lasts longer than fear." That is a very diplomatic answer. He smiled.
Fine.
The truth? Some days, I miss the simplicity of it. The clear lines between friend and enemy. The rush of control. But then I come home, and Amara runs to the door screaming, "Appa," and Kofi tries to tell me about his day in his broken toddler language. And you are in the kitchen cooking something that makes the whole place smell like home. And I realize I traded one kind of power for something infinitely better. I traded being feared for being loved. And that is not a trade I would ever take back. Nia turned in his arms, looking up at him. "You know what I never told you? That night I sent that first message to the wrong number, I was not just lonely. I was giving up. I had decided that night was going to be my last night of trying. And then you responded. You, this stranger who had no reason to care, responded with kindness. You saved my life before you ever knew my name." Han's expression softened. "Then we saved each other. Because you reminded me what it felt like to be human. What it felt like to want something other than power and control. You taught me how to love, Nia. How to be vulnerable. How to live instead of just survive." They kissed there on the beach where their story had really begun, 5 years and a lifetime ago. Their children played in the sand nearby. The city stretched out behind them, and for the first time in both their lives, the future felt bright instead of threatening. Life was not perfect. They still had moments of danger, echoes of Han's past that required careful navigation. Detective Park still kept tabs on them, convinced that eventually she would find something concrete. Victor had tried to contact Nia once, demanding money, and Han had handled it in his own way that resulted in Victor moving to Seoul and never bothering them again. But the hard moments were outweighed by the good. By lazy Sunday mornings with the whole family in bed. By the restaurant thriving and becoming a community staple. By watching their children grow up loved and safe. By still finding each other in the dark after hard days and remembering that they chose this. They chose each other. On their 10th anniversary, over a dinner Nia cooked while Han corralled the kids into bed, he gave her a gift. A framed screenshot of that first text message. The one she had sent to the wrong number. The one that had changed everything. I miss the person you used to be. I miss the person I used to be with you. I do not know how we got here, but I am tired of pretending everything is fine when I feel like I am disappearing. Below it, he had added his response. You have not disappeared. People only feel that way when they have been made invisible by someone who should be seeing them. That is not your fault. Nia read it through tears. You saved this. I saved everything. Every message. Every moment. Every piece of proof that sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right one. She kissed him then, deep and grateful and full of love that had grown from fear and loneliness into something unshakable. They had traveled far from that rainy night in Busan. From the woman who thought she was disappearing and the man who thought he was incapable of real connection. They had built a life from broken pieces and wrong numbers and impossible choices. And in the end, they had built something beautiful. Years later, when people asked how they met, Nia would smile and say it was a wrong number. A mistake. A message sent to someone it was never meant for. But Han would always correct her. Not a mistake. The only right thing I have ever done in my life was responding to that message. Everything good I have came from that one moment of choosing to answer instead of ignore. Their children grew up knowing the story. Knowing that sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected places. From taking chances even when you are scared. From choosing love even when logic says to run. And when Amara asked, years later, if she should trust her heart or her head, Nia pulled her close and said what she had learned through pain and healing and choosing the dangerous man who became her greatest safety. Trust both. But remember that sometimes your heart sees what your head cannot. That sometimes the scary choice is the right one. That sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected ways and all you can do is hold on and have faith that it will be worth it. It had been worth it. Every terrifying, complicated, beautiful moment. It had been worth it. And as Nia fell asleep that night, tucked against Han's chest with their life spread out around them, she sent up a quiet thank you to whatever force had made her type that number wrong. To whatever cosmic coincidence had connected two broken people who were brave enough to try healing together. Sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right one. And sometimes a mistake is really destiny in disguise. You just have to be brave enough to answer when it calls. If you made it to the end, drop a comment telling me which part hit you hardest. And remember, the best love stories are the ones we choose, even when they scare us. Especially when they scare us. Because that is when we know it is real.